Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, world community. And good to see you today on this Friday here in North America. Up here where it's kind of snowy and a little bit cold, we've got a pretty good day going on. Had some sun earlier today, and it's starting to give us hope that spring is around the corner. So we'll wait a few seconds here to get started on today's topic, and then we'll get right after it. Okay. And for those who watch the replay, as usual, please do send in your comments, your ideas, thoughts, questions, and so forth. You can send those by private message, or you can just leave a comment on this video. Now, all of the prior videos are on this profile page under videos, but I am moving each of these videos shortly after they're done over to a group. And that group has a lot of various resources and information. So I will move this over there, and what I'll do is when this video is closed out today, I will post the link to go to that group, and then you can see the resources there, including all of the prior videos. So today's topic is enthusiasm. Now, this is a continuation of our series on the mindset of life. And enthusiasm is variable number 6. And you know, all the variables are important. There's no doubt about that. If mindset is to work for you, if it is to make your life a richer, fuller experience and give you the opportunity to make a greater impact in the world, then what is really important is enthusiasm. Now, enthusiasm has a definition, right? I mean, everything seems to have a definition. Let me see if I can pull it up here on the other monitor. Okay, thank you, AVG. I got a program running. Oh, there we go. Okay. So enthusiasm, as defined, is intense and eager enjoyment, interest, or approval. Now, there's all sorts of different definitions of it, and that's a generic definition. But here is a definition of enthusiasm by B.C. Forbes. Now, he was a publisher. And one of the books he published happens to be one of my favorite books on the subject of enthusiasm, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. But here's his definition of enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is the all-essential human jet propeller. It is the driving force which elevates men to miracle workers. It begets boldness, courage, kindles confidence, overcomes doubts. It creates endless energy, the source of all accomplishments. So that's B.C. Forbes' definition of enthusiasm. And that definition is written in Norman Vincent Peale's book, Enthusiasm Makes All the Difference. That's arguably one of the most complete books on the subject of enthusiasm. If you have a chance to get it, it's on, of course, everything's on Amazon.com, but you can get a Kindle version of it. I think there's an Audible version of it. But it goes through a lot about enthusiasm. Now, Norman Vincent Peale was a Christian author, but that book is not just a spiritually motivated book. It is filled with common sense applications and stories and all sorts of good information on enthusiasm. And that book alone can make you an expert on that topic. But for us in the entrepreneurial space, enthusiasm is the bridge across to vision. In other words, it takes us from passion across the bridge to the vision of who we will become to fulfill our life's purpose. And enthusiasm is oh so important. And as I said in yesterday's video, enthusiasm is what really lights purpose on fire. It is the connection between vision and purpose, and it's the connection from your desire through decision all the way through attitude, and enthusiasm can have more influence in your life in changing your attitude, your beliefs and your values than just about anything. Have you ever seen a child, a young child, 3 or 4 years old, and they get to go do something that they like? Maybe it's going to the playground, or maybe they're learning to ride a bicycle, or up here where I live, they're out here skiing at just a little bit over 2, 2 to 3, they're out there on the boards. But their enthusiasm is just contagious. You can see it in their bodies. You can hear it in their language. They're happy little glees. They crash and burn and roll down the hill, and they pop up and off they go. They're enthusiastic. They don't care how cold it is. They don't care if the wind's blowing. There's snow all over the place. enthusiasm just picks them up and carries them forward. Well, it's real easy for a child to have enthusiasm. They've got very little baggage that they're hauling around with them from a life of experiences. One gentleman I met here just last year, actually, he was over here for one of our winter carnival events. His handle, his nickname is Eddie the Eagle, and his name is Michael Eddie Edwards, and he's from the UK. He was a ski jumper. He participated in the 1988 Olympics in Calgary, and he came in dead last. And we're not talking coming in just a little bit last. We're talking driving a stake in the ground that was irrefutably as far from the front as you could possibly be. And he did that on the 70 and the 90-meter jumps. But here's the amazing thing about Michael Eddie Edwards, aka Eddie the Eagle, his enthusiasm. Now I'm going to give you just a short story about Eddie because it really emphasizes what enthusiasm can do for you. Now, Eddie had some defects when he was a child. He was in braces and he was on crutches, but he kept reading this book about being in the Olympics, and that became his vision of what he wanted to do in life. He wanted to be an Olympian. So when he got the braces off his legs, he tried to develop himself into an Olympian. Of course, he wasn't succeeding at that, and it wasn't working all that well. So one day he got an inkling that he should try the Winter Olympics. So he started skiing with enthusiasm, incredible enthusiasm. In the UK, where they don't have snow to ski on, they have plastic runs. So he skied and skied, and he became really very good, but for various political reasons, he didn't make the downhill ski team. But his enthusiasm was so strong that his vision led him to ski jumping. He saw a poster. He thought, I wonder, I can do that. And despite all the odds, despite the pushbacks and the negativity and the attempts to hold him back by the Olympic Committee in the UK, he borrowed money, he slept in cars, he worked in restaurants, he did everything he had to do. He went over to the European continent, to Germany, and then finally he ended up at Lake Placid here in the United States, where he was trying to learn how to ski jump. He busted his face and his body in a short amount of time. When most ski jumpers begin at the age of 5, he began at the age of 22. And he was going to compete in the Olympics just 1 year later, if he made it. Well, his enthusiasm carried this through to the point where he actually made the Olympic team. He made the minimum jump height. He went to Calgary. He made the jump on the 70-meter, crashed all the way getting into that. I mean, he had more crashes than most people can imagine. But on that final jump, he made it. He came in dead last, but he was the hero of the Calgary Olympics in that regard because his spirit and his enthusiasm carried him forward, and people saw it. It was contagious. It just activated the crowd. Here's a guy that's dead last, and he's getting more attention and more press coverage and more accolades than the people who nailed the front end of that thing, who won it. The Finnish fellow that won the ski jumping competition, he was the youngest athlete ever to win it. Matti Nugalin, I believe was his name. And he got plenty of accolades, but it was Eddie the Eagle who was recognized. And then he turned around, never having jumped the 90-meter in his life. And what did he do? At the Olympics, he jumped the 90-meter, and he almost bought it big, crash, burn. But he, through his enthusiasm, was able to get himself righted. He landed the jump, dead last. But again, his enthusiasm was contagious. It just entrained people. So that's a short story of Eddie the Eagle, and I was very motivated because, I met the gentleman. I had never seen the movie that was done on him. I had never read his book. But when I met him, his enthusiasm, even years later, this was in 2018, that's a long time, we're talking, you're 88, 30 years after, right? You got 88, you got 98, you got, so you're 30 years after the Olympics, and this guy still is filled with Enthusiasm. He, food, I mean, when he went to eat dinner, when he met people, when he talked to the kids in the schools, his enthusiasm was incredible. Well, that's the kind of enthusiasm that we all need to embrace. It's what moves us forward in life. It's what makes all the difference in the world when it comes to entrepreneurial or life success. But what is enthusiasm? Well, enthusiasm is that connection. Enthusiasm is when your desires and your purpose and your passion line up. When they come into alignment, like the stars in the sky, then the enthusiasm starts to build because you are now connected, you're congruent. And that's what drives you forward. The world is short on enthusiasm today. For what reason? Because they have divergent desires and passions and purposes. That's the challenge that we all have. In the mindset of life, that's one of the biggest goals. That's one of the biggest byproducts and benefits of putting this mindset to life into practice is it does just that. It forces you to seriously consider how you align all of your emotional, mental, physical energy in the direction of that which you desire the most. It's real important. Now, in this book that Norman Vincent Peale wrote, The Enthusiasm Makes All the Difference, there are 12 chapters. In those chapters alone, if you just read the titles are powerful. They tell you pretty much the importance of enthusiasm. But let's, excuse me, the first one, what enthusiasm can do for you. I think we just talked about that. It'll make all the difference in your life. It's the connection between where you are now and where you want to go. Enthusiasm that never runs down. You see, that's a hard stretch, isn't it? Enthusiasm that never runs down. But you know what that is? Enthusiasm that never runs down is the constant, vigilant pursuit of excellence in the terms of your own unique abilities. In other words, you make a step every day, you celebrate it. That's excellence. It's not perfection. Nobody's asking us to be perfect. It's a step in the right direction. It's a step towards that which we desire. We celebrate it. That in and of itself is excellent. And that just fuels your enthusiasm. You are always looking for affirmation that you're heading in the right direction and you're taking the steps, however small. That renews your enthusiasm on a constant basis. Enthusiasm is persuasion. Now, I mentioned this yesterday, that it's contagious. You see, enthusiasm is what really locks people into your belief. If you believe and you're passionate and enthusiastic about what you're doing and why and where you're going, that's going to attract the right people to you. That's going to entrain them. It's going to persuade them. And in fact, there's some people who are probably naysayers and negative and pessimists who will one day wake up and they'll feel your influence just by the fact that you're enthusiastic about life, you're enthusiastic about what you're doing. Because behind enthusiasm is conviction. And all of that makes a huge difference in persuasion when it comes to other people, okay? How enthusiasm conquers fear and worry. Well, you see, enthusiasm is a mental state. It's mental energy. Enthusiasm is basically saying, I acknowledge the abundance of the universe. I acknowledge my uniqueness, my miracle state, and I will forge forward regardless. Nothing can possibly hurt me when I'm pursuing that which I desire, is my purpose, and it's my passion. It may stop me, it may divert me, it may push me back a little bit, but through enthusiasm, I will conquer fear and worry, anxiety, depression, because I'm enthusiastic about what I am bringing to the world. I'm enthusiastic about my growth. I'm enthusiastic about the impact I make on other people. That's huge. That's how you conquer fear, worry, doubt, anxiety, all of that stuff. That's enthusiasm. All right. Try enthusiasm on your job. This is one of the other titles in his chapters. You know, back in the Science of Getting Rich, in that series when we talked about it, there were 2 of the 10 foundational principles that I taught that really brought that home, right? Trying enthusiasm on the job. And they were, you must think, act, and live on the creative plane. And then the other is where is it? There it is. You must grow and evolve each day and always leave others with increased value in life. You see, those two principles echo what is being said about enthusiasm on the job. You see, if you're working at a job, if you're a career professional, you have something that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, but it's not your entrepreneurial journey. Perhaps you're working your entrepreneurial journey part-time. If you bring the enthusiasm you have for that part of your life, that pursuit of a passion and a purpose that isn't what you do on a day-to-day basis for your income or your sustenance, but if you bring that enthusiasm into that job, it makes all the difference. It makes that job go faster, more effective. It gives you more recognition. It makes your day go better. It makes you a happier person. And oh, by the way, doing that accelerates your path to the entrepreneurial direction that you want to go, because enthusiasm is contagious in all areas of your life. It's not just to be applied where your entrepreneurial direction is. You apply it everywhere in your life, and it can overcome a lot of stuff. Like we said, fear, anxiety, worry, doubt, trepidation. It possibly could even be overcoming disease in some cases. Tense, nervous, try enthusiasm. Well, we just kind of covered that. That was one of the other titles in there. But here's a really good one. Enthusiasm works miracles. That is really true. If you've ever known highly successful people who overcame odds of unimaginable peril and restriction, just about every one of them had enthusiasm beyond belief. See, enthusiasm is about belief. You wouldn't have enthusiasm if you didn't believe that you could conquer that which stands in your way. And so in this title, Enthusiasm Works Miracles, what is a miracle? A miracle is achieving something you didn't think possible. A miracle is helping somebody else get past a barrier that they didn't think was possible. A miracle is the conversion of the impossible to the possible. And it's enthusiasm that does that. If you're enthusiastic about what you do and what you learn, and you're enthusiastic about what you know, you're going to be enthusiastic about applying that and teaching it and sharing it with others. And ultimately, that can only overcome the impossible. That's how the impossible has been turned into the possible time and time again. Dauntless enthusiasm. That would be chapter 7 in Norman Vincent Peale's book. 8, enthusiasm, powerful motivation that makes things happen. Well, I think we just kind of covered that. Creating miracles, that's pretty much making things happen. Power under, okay, let's see, chapter 9, builds power under your difficulties. Well, again, that's pretty obvious from what we just talked about. Enthusiasm is the chain that will pull you out of the depths of despair, out of the challenges that you face. And it's one thing to have passion. A lot of people have passion. They're passionate about things, as we talked about yesterday. But it's enthusiasm that throws the drivetrain into four-wheel drive and pulls you out of where you're at to climb to the top of the mountain where your passion is set free. Seriously. I mean, that's metaphorically a little philosophy, but it works. I truly believe that enthusiasm is the four-wheel drive of life. Contagious. And I talked about that earlier. That would be chapter 10. Chapter 11, enthusiasm and our future. Okay, that's big, right? Because what is the mindset of life about? The mindset of life is your mental operating system once you've integrated it into your life. It's your life operating system that is integrated with what you do on a day-to-day basis. That's the mindset of life. The whole purpose of that is to give you a congruent standard of living by which you go into the future. See, enthusiasm is about possibilities. It's about the abundance of the universe. It's about, well, converting the impossible to the possible. It's about seeing beyond what most people can't possibly see or even think about, because your enthusiasm ignites your life energy. It brings what's inside of you up to the top, where it can be seen, where it can be felt, where it can grow and fly. That's enthusiasm. It can change your life once you embrace it and understand it and let it out of the cage. And finally, number 12, enthusiasm makes all the difference. So that's Norman Vincent Peale's set of chapters in his book, Enthusiasm Makes All the Difference. And I'm not doing a book report on that. I'm merely saying that that book got me thinking a lot about enthusiasm. And then as I looked around and I saw the evidence of it, I started to become more enthusiastic. I started to see the connection between enthusiasm and happiness. I started to see how enthusiasm can push away depression and despair. Because to be enthusiastic, you have to be positive. You have to be engaged in the possibilities of life. And that's the beauty of enthusiasm. And how do you spread it? Well, you have to spread it by acting it. You see, the thing about passion and enthusiasm is nobody knows you have them unless you take them out and show them. You wear them on your sleeve. And that's not to say that you have to be overly exuberant and be a total nuisance and get in people's face to the point where they just don't want to see you again. That, you don't have to do anything like that. You just have to believe and have conviction that what you're doing is right, good, true, and worthy and has an impact on the world. Be enthusiastic because your purpose and your passion and your desires are all aligned to become the person that you need to become. And it's enthusiasm that bridges the gap from those over to vision, which we're going to talk about in our next session. So enthusiasm is ever so important, and you create it in your life on a day-to-day basis. You create it by taking in those little things that you do that make a difference. For example, if you have a to-do list, like many of us do, and you knock an item off that list, be enthusiastic about it. Look back and see the effort you put in, the acknowledgement, the affirmation that you accomplished that. And as you knock them all off, be enthusiastic that that's taking you into the next phase of your life. Now, obviously, if you got a to-do list that's got a bunch of stuff on it that's irrelevant, doesn't really do anything to propel you forward, that's a different topic. That's where you start saying, I guess I better rethink my priorities. But that list of yours is likely covered and made up of things that move you forward. It's a celebration. It's an enthusiasm each time you knock one of those off. When you help somebody, when you point something out to somebody that gives them a little bit better perspective of life, or you do something for somebody like pulling them out of a ditch, all of that is fuel for enthusiasm. And of course, in your business, as you get into all the elements of entrepreneurship and achieving that entrepreneurial lifestyle of fun, profit, freedom, and impact, enthusiasm is in there every step of the way. Every step of the way. So that's enthusiasm. That's the importance of it. That's how it has so much impact on our lives. And it's something that you have to work on every day. It's energy. It takes some time, but it becomes a habit. When your mind wakes up in the morning and it feels enthusiasm, it wants to do that, right? It's going to teach you, it's going to reinforce that it's a good feeling and something you want. It's what helps your passion warm your life. So that's the topic today on enthusiasm. And in next session, we're going to move into vision. Now, as I said yesterday, vision is a bigger topic. And I'm going to cover a little bit of the reasons why here so that you're kind of primed for it when we get into it. My definition of vision is simply the person that you must become in order to be worthy, capable, and deserving of delivering your purpose to the world. Vision is an internal journey. It's the vision of who you will become in the future so that you can deliver your purpose. Purpose is external. Purpose is that which the world sees. It's the external manifestation of your internal self. It's what your legacy is. It's the impact you make. It's the fulfillment that you feel for having achieved that which you set out to do. That's purpose. And if you take purpose and vision and you add passion and enthusiasm, then you got an unbeatable combination. But vision is a rather deep subject. It's beyond that definition that I just gave you. See, because in vision is where we really sit down and we ask the question, who do we need to become? And how do we do that? And once we know how, then how do we break it down to identify the parts of our lives that we really need to invest in to become the person of that vision? And boy, there's where it gets real interesting, because if you've been in the online space, for example, if you've been in personal development, you know that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of courses, webinars, and seminars out there for anywhere from $7 to $997, always ending in a 7 for the most part, that promise to give you vision, that promise to set you free and to give you all the tools you need. But how many of those have worked? Here's why some of them, most of them, don't work. It's because a lack of vision. In other words, a lack of understanding of who it is you are to become in the future, who you must become to make the impact on the world that you are capable of, and then going down deeper to ask the questions, what do I need to know? What do I need to learn? Who do I need to talk to? You know, it's a question that's going to be quite individualized. It's a pursuit based on logic. At this point, we've already gone through the emotional elements, and we've put together our desires, and we've looked at passion and enthusiasm, and all of these things tend to fall into that category. You could call it emotion. But here in vision, we're going to go drill down, and it's going to be logic. And it's going to be based on a system that I've used for decades. In fact, I used it when I was a consultant with several high-tech companies to build organizations. It's a very simple system, and it applies to virtually anything where you've got to break it down to a fundamental level to understand what you need to do in order to achieve that which you desire. So that's what we're going to be going into over the next several sessions, because vision is so important. You've got to know who it is you're to become if you are to have a chance of becoming it, delivering your purpose, staying the course, being consistent and congruent going forward. Big topic, but it's very important. So that's where we're going to be heading in the next sessions. They may be tomorrow, but to be honest, tomorrow's Saturday up here. There are a few things that I personally have to take care of before the snow starts melting in a month or so, because otherwise I'm going to have some massive structural problems in a few things. So I may be spending most of tomorrow moving snow. I don't know that just yet, but we're gonna think about that. All right. Well, Sarah, Jerry, and Peter, hey, thank you for coming on board in the live session. Do appreciate it. And for those of you on the replay, you know, do leave your questions, comments, ideas, thoughts, and I will get back to you. You can either do that by private message, or you can leave it in the comment box on the video when we're done. So I want to wish you guys a great Friday. Have a great weekend. I will try to be online tomorrow if all goes well, and we'll start on the subject of vision. So once again, thank you. Take care, and we'll see you out there somewhere.